Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our beloved speaker for today, His Grace, YASODEVA Prabhu. And of course, all glories to our assembled Vaishnava devotees. We thank you all as always. We are very much blessed. We have His Grace, YASODEVA Prabhu, who will be sharing with us the Nectarian Srimad Bhagavatam. And we encourage devotees to be very rapt attentive, because we strongly believe at the end of the Sangha, we're all going to benefit a lot spiritually and even materially from this Sangha. So, Yashadev Prabhu, as always, thank you so much for being here. And without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen. We will also discuss that today is the divine disappearance of His Divine Grace, Srila Jagannatha Das Babaji. So, Prabhuji may say a few words about His Divine Grace for the benefit of the 11 entities in these material bodies, because hearing about the glories of the pure devotees of the Lord is as good as hearing about the Supreme Lord Himself. Sometimes even more nectarian than the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord Himself enjoys it, as we've been reading so much, talking about His pure devotees. So, Yashadev Prabhu, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. And I'll stop talking and then I'll put the verse on the screen. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you, Sahadev Prabhu. So nice to see all the devotees again. Thank you for having me, keeping me engaged in devotional service, talking about Krishna. I'll just start by saying Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 16th chapter, about the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jaya and Vijaya, cursed by the sages. Now we're at text number 8, and this is the Lord speaking, Narayan. As you've heard in previous verses, he's glorifying the devotees, glorifying the brahmanas. He's accepted as his own fault that this offense occurred. That's just blows my mind. And of course, Jai and Vijay and the four Kamaras are all shocked by this. And in this verse, he continues to glorify the brahmanas and the devotees. Naham tadadmi yajama. What is the? Naham tadadmi yajamana havir vitane. Shotad grita plutam adanhuta bun mukena. Yad brahmanasya mukatas charato nugasam. Tushtasya maya vahitair nija karma pakai. I will do the word for word translation if that's all right. Na, not. Aham, I. Tata, on the other hand. Admi, I eat. Yajamana, by the sacrificer. Havihi, the oblations, which is sometimes translated as butter, both literally and allegorically. Havir is the butter, what is offered into the fire. Vitane, in the sacrificial fire. Shotat, pouring. Grita, ghee. Plutam, mixed. Adan, eating. Hutabhuk, the sacrificial fire. Mukena, by the mouth. Yat, as. Brahmanasya, of the Brahmana. Mukataha, from the mouth. Charataha, acting. Anughasam, morsels. Tushtasya, satisfied. Mai, to me. Avahitai, offered. Nija, own. Karma, activities. Pakai, by the results. Excuse me. Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So the Lord says, I do not enjoy the oblations offered by the sacrificers in the sacrificial fire, which is one of my own mouths, with the same relish as I do the delicacies overflowing with ghee, which are offered to the mouths of the brahmanas who have dedicated to me the results of their activities and who are satisfied with my prasad. Wow. Purport. The devotee of the Lord, or the Vaishnava, does not take anything without offering it to the Lord. Since the Vaishnava dedicates all the results of his activities to the Lord, he does not taste anything eatable which is not first offered to him. The Lord also relishes giving to the Vaishnava's mouth all eatables offered to him. It is clear from this verse that the Lord eats through the sacrificial fire and the Brahmana's mouth. So many articles, grains, ghee, etc., are offered in sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord. The Lord accepts sacrificial offerings from the Brahmanas and devotees, and elsewhere it is stated that whatever is given for the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to eat is also accepted by the Lord. But here it is said that he accepts offerings to the mouths of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas with even greater relish. The best example of this is found in the life of Advaita Prabhu and his dealings with Haridas Thakur. Even though Haridas was born of a Mohammedan family, Advaita Prabhu offered him the first dish of prasad after the performance of a sacred fire ceremony. Haridas Thakur informed him that he was born of a Mohammedan family and asked why Advaita Prabhu was offering the first dish to a Mohammedan instead of an elevated Brahmana. Out of his humbleness, Haridas condemned himself, a Mohammedan, but Advaita Prabhu, being an experienced devotee, accepted him as a real Brahmana. Advaita Prabhu asserted that by offering the first dish to Haridas Thakur, he was getting the result of feeding 100,000 Brahmanas. The conclusion is that if one can feed a Brahmana or Vaishnava, it is better than performing hundreds of thousands of sacrifices. Wow. In this age, therefore, it is recommended that Hare Nama, chanting the holy name of God, and pleasing the Vaishnava are the only means to elevate oneself to spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We're so fortunate to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam through the mouth of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Here, the Lord is glorifying the mouths of the devotees and brahmanas, that He prefers the offering that goes through their mouth than the sacrificial fire. Probably most of us here have at least witnessed or maybe even performed a fire sacrifice. You know, there's so much ritual involved. The kindling of the flame, the chanting of the many mantras, doing things in a certain order, so much cleanliness and purity, a lot of planning. The performers of the sacrifice, who it's performed on behalf of, the priests, there's a lot that's involved in that. And it can be very beautiful. It's really wonderful ritual to do. And of course, there should be nice food, nice prasadam. There should be some money involved, giving money to the priests, to the devotees. There's a lot involved in a fire sacrifice. And yet, here the Lord is saying so emphatically, He's made a lot of emphatic statements in this conversation, right? In these two chapters. He said He'll cut off His own arm if it's offensive to a devotee. He says that this offense that occurred is His own fault. This is how the Lord is speaking. So He's making a lot of emphatic statements. And in this one, He's saying that even better than all of those fire sacrifices, as beautiful as they are, I prefer it when there's just delicious food laden with ghee. It says ghee. It doesn't say canola oil. It says ghee. But of course, It's the Kali Yuga, and we're all very sad and pathetic in the Kali Yuga. We mostly cook with oils. But the Lord is saying that I prefer that offering placed into the mouth of my devotees, into the Brahmanas' mouths. This is very emphatic, and this is demonstrating that there's degrees of pleasing the Lord. The Lord is not a button that you push. He's not a machine or a robot. You just put in the right input and you get the output. The Lord is the supreme person. And some things are pleasing to him. Some things are more pleasing to him. Some things are most pleasing to him. And because we're people, we express our love by always going after what is most pleasing to the Lord. Not doing the minimum. You can do the minimum by just being in Sattva Guna. Actually, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if you're in Sattva Guna, you'll be elevated to higher planetary systems. That's the minimum for being a human. But if we want to have a relationship with the Lord, we're always thinking, what can I do more? What can I do better? That's a real relationship. That love is so endless, so boundless, that I always want something more for my beloved. So herein the Lord is showing us some things are more pleasing to him. Are we concerned with that, or are we concerned with the minimum? Nobody wants to be in a minimum relationship. Maybe some of us have been on the receiving end of a minimum relationship. You know what I'm talking about? Where someone's just doing what's necessary. And you say, all right, but like, come on. If I mean something to you, do something more than just the minimum. So here the Lord is saying even better than those fire sacrifices is delicious foodstuffs soaked in ghee offered into the mouths of the devotees, the Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas. He wants to see his own Lord, his own devotees being pleased. The Lord wants to see his devotees happy, nourished. And especially those devotees, Brahmanas, who speak on behalf of the Lord, they can eat on behalf of the Lord. Prabhupada said this explicitly. If you want to be eating on behalf of Krishna, you have to speak on behalf of Krishna, become the mouth of Krishna. But if you're not speaking on behalf of Krishna, saying the absolute truth, no matter what the circumstances, never compromising, then you can't propose to eat on behalf of the Lord also. But this is the Lord's pleasure, to see his own devotees being pleased, enjoying, healthy, nourished. Of course, this is my own little speculation, but at the time of these of the composition of Srimad Bhagavatam, and what to speak of the time when this Leela was actually happening, there wasn't as much, how should we say, chemically altered food which produces such terrible health like we have in Kali Yuga. In this context, food laden with ghee means healthy. It's nourishing. Nowadays, of course, we're just so saturated with fats. They actually have to put that word on the label, saturated fats, to really drive it home. We're just saturated with unhealthy food all the time. And so the idea of eating food with even more ghee and fat in it might sound like it's the opposite. Most of us need to just be eating salad, shed a few pounds. But in this context, eating nourishing food, pure organic foods, they didn't have a word for organic back then. There was just normal food. Now we have to distinguish what's been sprayed with glyphosate, or what's that one that gives everybody cancer? Anyway, these insecticides and pesticides and things. They didn't have to consider that. Nourishing food is food which has fat in it, like ghee. So when the Lord's saying, I'm pleased to see these foods offered into the mouths of my devotees, he's saying also that they should be healthy and nourished. He's satisfied by that, by their well-being, by their pleasure. This is real devotion. This is the Lord expressing devotion. It's a two-way street. It's not just us. We're trying to be devotees to the Lord, right? That's been our meditation. That's been our effort. The Lord is devoted to his devotees. He wants them to have delicious prasadam. He wants to drive Arjuna's chariot. He wants to deliver the message for the Pandavas. He wants to carry the cowherd boys on his shoulders because they say, come on, Krishna, we're going to wrestle now. Pick me up on your shoulders. And Krishna just picks them up. He wants to serve his devotees. This is what bhakti looks like. And recognizing that there is a spectrum of pleasure. Not just doing the minimum. If the Lord does the minimum for us, he just creates the universe and that's it. Some people, that's their philosophy. It's called deism. That God has created everything, but then now he's just doing his own thing somewhere else, completely uninvolved. For some people, that's the relationship that they have with the Lord. Bare minimum. I've given my respect by just recognizing that God has created the universe. I've done my bare minimum. He's done his minimum. I've done my minimum. That's the extent of our relationship. For a lot of people, that's their theism. But of course, we want to always think of how to do more and more and more. So here the Lord is saying, even better. Better than this is to do that. The whole 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is about that. Better than doing this is to do that. And even better than that is to do this. And even better than that is to do this. The whole conversation between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy is all about what's better pleasing to the Lord? What's best? Ramananda Roy says, to follow Varnashrama Dharma. And Lord Chaitanya says, Eho Bhaya, this is external. Do more. And then Ramananda Roy says, offering the results of everything to the Lord. And Lord Chaitanya says, go more, more. And they continue discussing so many different ways to please the Lord until they finally come to the apex of bhakti, which is, of course, Srimati Radharani's Mahabhava, which we can't imitate. We can barely even understand it. The point is, there's always so much more we can do to please Krishna. And the lesson we get from this verse is that we should consider what is more pleasing to the Lord. We should do that. Satatam kirtayanto mam, jejana paripasate. He says, always chanting my glories. This pleases him. He says, one who takes this message and delivers it to other is very dear to him, and no one will ever be more dear. The Lord is a person, and he has that right to say, this person is dear, yes. All living entities are dear to me, but this one's even more dear. He has that right because he's a person. It doesn't mean that he's not equal to everybody. He'd be equal to all living entities, but some are very special. So we want to be most pleasing to the Lord, not just the minimum. This is what we learn from this verse, among other things. Also in this verse, what's very interesting is Prabhupada's talking about the example of Haridas Thakur and Advaita Prabhu. How Advaita Acharya recognized Haridas Thakur as the topmost devotee in that assembly and wanted to honor him regardless of the condition of his body, his background, his ethnicity, even his religion. Technically, he was born a Mohammedan, Muslim. But Advaita Prabhu recognized him as the topmost devotee of the Lord, and he should be honored first and foremost. That was very controversial at the time. I mean, it's still controversial now in 2026, you can imagine, back then. This is a very important theme that comes up again and again in our Shastra, in our scriptures. That a devotee should be recognized for their qualities. Guna karma vibhagasha, by their qualities, by their activities, by their devotion, not their body. Consideration of a devotee's body is actually offensive. It says in the Nectar of Instruction by Srila Rupa Goswami in text number 6, right? If you'll just give me a moment. I'm no longer Shrutidara, remembering everything as soon as I hear it. I'm getting too old for that, so I got to pull up the app. In the Nectar of Instruction, text 6, Rupa Goswami points out that actually to consider the body of a devotee, to analyze it, and to judge them for it is an offense. Advaita Acharya, recognizing Haridas Thakur, did not commit that offense. He recognized this is a great devotee. Does not matter what his body's condition is like, or what his background is, or his ethnicity. Does not matter the gender. which is still a very controversial idea, but I won't open that whole can of worms right now. But in the Nectar of Instruction, text 6, Rupa Goswami says, being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee's having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee. But despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of the Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. The Ganges waters do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. This is so important for us, dear devotees, to remember. The devotee's body is inconsequential, and they cannot be judged for it. That's actually an offense, just like it would be an offense to consider the sacred rivers to be impure just because there's some bubbles, some mud, or even someone carelessly throwing trash in it. Unfortunately, that's still a trend around the world, throwing trash in the rivers. The value of the river, its transcendental quality, is not diminished despite that superficial stain. So we don't judge a devotee by their external appearance, by their body, or anything related to their body. We do judge according to the quality of their devotion to the Lord, their hearing and chanting, their engagement in devotional service. All of those symptoms are also described by Rupa Goswami in this Nectar of Instruction. I have firsthand experience of the power of the fault of judging a devotee by their body. Can I tell you all a short story about a wonderful devotee who passed away not so long ago? His Holiness Bhakti Vishramba Madhava Maharaj. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. He didn't travel as much as others. Bhakti Vishramba Madhava Maharaj was a very ecstatic devotee, very ecstatic in pure love of Krishna. But his body was very strange. And when I first saw him, I was this brand new bhakta. I mean, maybe I was already in the Brahmacharya ashram in New Zealand at the Auckland Temple, and everybody said there's a Swami coming. We're going to have a program in the evening, and there were hundreds of devotees there. And I sat right up front, as I always do when Gurudev is at my spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Swami. I always sit right up front because I just, like a pathetic kid, I want some attention or something. And so I sat down, and we were all waiting for the Swami to come. It was a little late. And he just like runs up to the Vyasasana. He just like runs in a really funny way. And he sits down and he goes, all right. Questions and answers. You got questions. I got answers. Who's going first? Just like that. He had this like really strong Brooklyn accent. I don't know if any of you know the Brooklyn accent. Who's going first? Come on, forget about it. And his head is a little bit deformed, funny shape. He had this hat on, and then when he took the hat off, it was like a very odd shape. And I was a very new devotee, and I was only familiar with my spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Swami, who at that time was like very grave. He was really like the guru. And everybody's like, oh, Guru Dev. And so when this Swami came on, I just thought, is this a joke? Are they messing with us? Who is this person? He's got these big glasses, the kind where the lenses are so big that it makes their eyes look really tiny because he's just got terrible eyesight. And his funny shaped head, just like everything about him was like short and stocky. And I had a very offensive mentality, judging superficially this devotee. I thought this is like a joke. This is not a devotee. All the devotees I know, they're very serious, they're very like perfect, flawless human specimens. And this person just seems so odd. And I was cultivating this offensive mentality. And he didn't go through all the mantras. He just like sat down. Who's got questions? Who's going first? I'm like, what? What is this? Anyway, he was talking for a while, and I was cultivating this offensive mentality. And then he performed a miracle because I was judging him, and I thought, if this person is really amazing, he should know what I'm thinking. I was actually thinking in this way, and I don't know why. I was just a kid. I was like 19 years old. He should know. I mean, does he have like mystic powers like my spiritual master does? And then, despite all of the people in the room, he just turned to me and said, you have a question, don't you? And I was kind of shocked because, again, he looks very strange. And he called me out. And I just kind of stammered. I was like, and then he just told me exactly what I was thinking. The exact question I had in my mind, he just recited it out loud. He said, "Oh, you have a question about how the spiritual master knows everything via the super soul and the heart." Because I was actually thinking that this is the question that I wanted to ask. And he just said it like that. Just boom. It was a miracle. I'm a very skeptical, cynical person, actually. But this devotee just blew my mind. And then he gave an incredible, remarkable answer. And then I just fell in love with him. Bhakti Vishram Madhava Maharaj. I would always try to serve him whenever he was around. And he was just so ecstatic. He would worship his Govardhan Shilas while sitting underneath the table. And he would pick them up, his Krishna Balaram Shilas, very large stones. And he would hit me on the head with them. He'd go, whack! Now you got the mercy. Whack! And he hit me with another one. And he would talk about Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan, and he would just cry, 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 cry. Like almost like you'd have to hold him. You have to hold him. He's just hysterical all the time, talking about Krishna's pastimes, talking about things that are happening in the bushes down by the bank of the Jamuna with Radha and Krishna. And I was just like, Maharaj, I can't listen to this. I'm not qualified to hear the sort of stuff you're talking about. Why am I telling this story? Oh, that's right. Because superficially, though, his body, his character, his background, is pretty bad. I mean, by all objective consideration, it's very bad. And but if we to judge a devotee superficially like this, it's actually offensive. A devotee is transcendental to their body. A pure devotee is transcendental. There is no consideration of the form that they utilize in the service of Krishna. Like the meat of a coconut becomes separated from its husk when it's dried, even if it's still inside the coconut shell. You can feel and hear that actually that coconut is separated from the outer shell. Similarly, the pure devotee is separated from their body, and consideration of that body is not necessary. It's offensive. That sort of devotee, Krishna is very pleased when we serve them. Serve them prasadam, serve them in their mission, how they're serving the Lord. That's how we please Krishna. He's more pleased by that than he is by the performance of sacrifice and ritual. He's even more pleased. Because Krishna is not a robot. The Lord is not a machine. He's not some computer program. You just do the input and you get the output. He has preferences, and he prefers that his devotees are served with love and with devotion, even to his own self. So that's why Prabhupada says at the very end of this purport, in this age, therefore, it is recommended that Hare Nama, chanting the holy name of God, and pleasing the Vaishnava are the only means to elevate oneself to spiritual life. Why? That's what's pleasing the Lord. It's that simple. So let's take a good lesson from this story in Srimad Bhagavatam about Narayan coming to the place where this offense has happened, taking full responsibility on himself, praising the Kumaras, praising Jaya and Vijaya, saying that I would cut off my own arm if it is offensive to the devotees, saying I prefer the offerings to the mouth of my devotees than I do through the sacrificial fire. Let's take it some inspiration from the Lord himself, how he wants to honor devotees, and let us also honor devotees like that. This pleases him so much. That's the Lord's culture. That's his culture. Even he wants to serve the devotees and drive Arjuna's chariot and deliver messages for Yudhishthir. Even he wants to serve the devotees. He wants to glorify the devotees, praise them, give them all credit. Like when he gave Bhima credit for killing Jarasandha. How many times did Krishna fight with Jarasandha? Many times. But he wanted to give Bhima credit for defeating Jarasandha. He wants Bhima to be praised. Even for his beauty. Actually, it's said that Pradyumna was even more beautiful than Krishna. Krishna wanted Pradyumna to be praised for having beauty. There are so many instances like this, actually, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, where the Lord wants his devotees to be elevated, to be pleased, to be served, to be honored. And as he's saying in this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, that pleases him even more. So who are we to reject the Lord's own culture, his own attitude towards the devotees, and to instead judge the devotees superficially, externally? How could that possibly be pleasing to Krishna? It's not possible. It's not possible. So we have such a wonderful example in the Lord himself and in Srila Prabhupada's purport. So we know without a doubt, very clearly, what's pleasing to Krishna. We're very fortunate for that. Hare Krishna. Nice verse and purport. Please consider this, and please consider this sixth verse of the Nectar of Instruction. I think it's really important for us to remember, especially as bodily consciousness is increasing. That's the symptom of Kali Yuga. The bodily consciousness is increasing. We devotees, we must fight back. We must preserve Krishna's culture of not considering superficially the body, but only considering someone's devotion. Hare Krishna. That's all I have to say about that. I think I should say something about Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. You want me to just do that
Yes.
now, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, please.
That's what I'm being paid for, so I will. I'm sure my check is in the mail. No, I'm kidding. It's our privilege to be able to say something about Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Again, I gave the Bhagavatam class this morning and we spoke about Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who is our Param Guru. I'll say a little quickly because we only have so much time, but he is our Param Guru. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj is the Shiksha Guru of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Srila Prabhupada said a very prominent acharya, very prominent because he really bridged the gap between our ancient acharyas from the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, like Narottam and Srinivas and Baladev Vidyabhushana, these devotees who, after the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they took that priceless gem of pure bhakti that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that the Lord himself taught and demonstrated. They took that priceless gem and they polished it and they made it perfect. The six Goswamis, they made everything perfect, right? Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano Sadharma Samstapako. They dedicated themselves to making that Chaitanya Bhakti, that intense Bhava Bhakti, scripturally sound, authentic, authoritative. They produced all this literature to show how philosophically, scripturally authoritative it is. They produced so much devotional literature, Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava, so many bhajans. They produced all of this immediately after the departure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to solidify for the benefit of the entire universe, Chaitanya Bhakti, Krishna Bhakti. But then sometime after these great acharyas, much of the tradition of Gaudiya Vaishnava Bhakti was lost, or we should say diminished. It's really diminished for a while. and there was a lot of sentimentalism. There was no institution that preserves things like we have now. Srila Prabhupada said that Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, whose disappearance day we are honoring today, was the bridge between those original acharyas from the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and modern Vaishnava culture. This is what Prabhupada said about Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Particularly, he reinstated the attitude that we have in our parampara. And this is an important point that I want to make very clear. Our parampara, our guru parampara, has an attitude. It's not just our technical connection to the Lord, like some sort of legal document, like if you migrate to some country. I mean, I've lived in so many countries, and you have to get all these legal documents, this visa, that visa, your green card, your blue card, whatever. I've had so many cards, I can't remember them all. And if you have that official document, it's like, well, I'm connected now. I'm legal. I'm safe. It's done. You don't have to know anybody in the government or any representative of the country. You just have the document, you're done. And we should not treat Guru Parampara like that. Well, I'm technically connected, so that's it. No, what we inherit from our Guru Parampara is an attitude in service to Krishna, a devotional feeling, a bhava, that a mood that manifests in our whole community, that guides our whole community all over the world. And because, as Prabhupada said, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj set that standard. He set the standard for the mood of our parampara. Therefore, he's called Sarvabhauma. We say in his pranam mantra, Sajjana, what do we say? Who remembers his pranam mantra? Oh my gosh, I can't remember it. I'm going to pull it up in just a second. We say in his pranam mantra, Gauravir Bhava Bhumnes Tvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Sri Jagannathaya Te Namaha. Sarvabhauma means one who sets the standard for the whole world. Sarvabhauma, the entire world. And that's a very audacious thing to say. Srila Prabhupada said it, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said it, that Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj is the progenitor, the sovereign, Prabhupada said, the sovereign for all Vaishnavas around the world. Sovereign is an old Latin word, which comes from the Sanskrit, sarvabhauma. Sovereign. Reign, of course, means to rule, one that controls or one who guides. The sovereign, one who rules over all. Now imagine saying that about this Babaji, who born in Navadvip area around the year 1800. There was no connection with the outside world, right? There was no internet whereby whatever Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj says could be transmitted around the world. But the devotees even then, like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, recognized this is Sarvabhauma Vaishnava. Actually, his standard of bhakti will be the standard around the world. And here we are, as a result, understanding something about Radha and Krishna. What is that particular mood and standard that Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj has initiated for all of us? Particularly the authenticity, the scriptural authenticity of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj set the attitude in our parampara of rejecting and even challenging the sajya tendency that people have. Sahaji is a word that means diminishment by sentimentality. Making the practice very sentimental and don't worry about the rules. And yeah, if the acharya said this, but it doesn't matter. Just do whatever feels good. Many, many groups have done like that. And many of them don't exist anymore. And many devotees have fallen away because of that attitude. But Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj and all of his spiritual descendants have a particular attitude that Krishna Bhakti is so pure, like a priceless gem. and it should be in the perfect setting of scriptural authority, certain rules and regulations, whereby that gem can really shine. Just like if you have a priceless gem, I won't say a diamond because diamonds are all a scam, but something like a beautiful sapphire, Indranila. You don't just hold it in your hand. You don't just give it to your wife. Here you go. It's got to be in a perfect setting of a gold ring with all the little clasps holding on to it. Then it can really shine. Then it can really be on display. Similarly, the attitude of our parampara, initiated by Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, is that bhakti is nourished by, it's amplified by the setting of scriptural authority and certain rules and regulations which allow for that devotion to really grow. This is why Srila Prabhupada said that Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj is the sovereign of all the devotees, for making that the mood, making that very clear. And why Bhaktivinoda Thakur said is Sarvabhauma, setting the standard for all Vaishnavas around the world. So truly a remarkable personality, full of devotion, and such devotion that even in the context of a very whimsical, sentimental Vaishnavism that was happening at the time, where it was all just like, well, just everybody do your own thing. It was all very scattered. Nobody really had a plan. Nobody was, well, really taking the scriptures very seriously. Even in that context, to have the intense devotion that he could set a standard for everybody is very powerful. I mean, we all know if you ever tried to be in a group and try to set a standard for the group, yeah, good luck. It's just so hard in Kali Yuga to try to set a standard for anybody else, ever. So a devotee who has such devotion, such conviction that they can do that is rightfully called Sarvabhauma. And that's where the attitude of our parampara really comes from. That's why Prabhupada said he's like the bridge between the older previous acharyas and our modern Vaishnava culture. I'll tell one very quick story about Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, as most of you probably know, and about his a favorite story of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, about his discovery of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, at the time, wanted to find the exact location of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace and pastimes. Because this is by the river Ganga, rivers, they move a little bit. Some of you know, they can move this way, they can move that way. It's because the river Ganga separated into some deltas that the area is called Navadvipa, 9 islands. The river splits up this way and closes that way, and so it makes little islands within the river. So at the time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur he discovered that the city of Navadvipa was not the original Navadvipa. It had actually moved. And the city that he knew as Navadvipa was only about 100 years old. Which is very interesting. This happens sometimes, that the center of an urban area can shift. Like where I live in State College, Pennsylvania. I think only a few of you who live in the area, you know. Here in State College, it's a relatively big town for central Pennsylvania because of the university. But 150 years ago, there was just nothing here. It was a little high school. And actually Bellefonte, maybe you know Bellefonte, Sahadev Prabhu, which is just, about 30 minutes that way. That was the big city. It's such a big city that the President Abraham Lincoln, he wanted that to be the capital of Pennsylvania. He wanted Bellefonte to be the capital. And he wrote some letter about it. That's where Harriet Tubman used to take her Underground Railroad. Some of you might know the history of the Underground Railroad, how she would take escaped slaves up to the northern states. It went right through Bellefonte. So it had all this significance. But then they made a little high school in the city where I live. And then that high school eventually became the university. And now it's kind of enveloped everything else. So the similar thing was happening in the Navadvip in the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he said, hey, this isn't the original town. This is not the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Where is it? So he was pouring through government records and old maps. He finally got some insight from some Babajis and so many people who knew that actually the real birthplace was on the other side of one particular part of the Ganga. It was some land that was owned by some Muslims. And they didn't want to go there because they said that sometimes they'd hear sounds and there were lights shining. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he went there and he brought Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj in a basket. At this time, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was about 120 years old. He would not walk. He was carried around in a basket on the shoulders of one of his disciples, Bihari Lal. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur went there with Jagannath Das Babaji, and even though Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was so old and frail, he couldn't even open his eyes unless he used his fingers. Still, when they came upon the actual birth site of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in ecstasy, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj stretched out his whole body and he yelled and he danced, Haribo, Gauranga, Haribo. So they took that as confirmation of what Bhaktivinoda Thakur had been researching, that this is the actual place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. Perhaps some of you have been there. So Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj is critical in, again, establishing the attitude of our parampara, the legacy that we inherit. It's not just a technical connection to the Lord, but a certain bhava, a certain mood, a certain attitude, that the priceless jewel of Krishna Bhakti, coupled with the setting of scriptural authority, creates the best expression of devotion. And in the same way, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj established Mayapur by rediscovering the original place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. He reestablished Mayapur, which is becoming such a central hub for devotion for people all around the world. It's growing and growing all the time. So even though there's not a whole lot known about the history of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, and even though we may feel like, well, he's my guru's guru, it's so far removed, it's not that significant. No, it is significant. This is the attitude that we've inherited, especially from him. This is the culture that we have. Just like we've learned about Krishna's culture in the Srimad Bhagavatam, so we have a certain culture that we get from our great acharyas. So on these days of the appearance or disappearance of great devotees, we should try to remember that they carry us, just like Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was carried in a basket. They carry us in our devotional service. We are the products of their mercy and of their attitude. It shapes us and molds us and propels us towards pure devotional service, and without which we would be very much like Vaishnavism in the time of Jagannath Das Babaji, where it was all just, well, everybody just do whatever. What happens when everybody just does whatever? Nothing. Eventually, nothing happens. Maybe some of you have seen in different devotee communities you've been in, if there isn't organization, if there isn't leadership, eventually everything just kind of melts. Well, this person, I guess they're doing a little chanting at home, and I guess that person, every once in a while they might distribute a little prasadam, maybe. But there's nothing really happening. It's just sputtering. That was the context in the time of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. He saved us from that and set a standard whereby we can thrive. So we should be grateful to the institution, despite whatever challenges there may be in our International Society of Krishna Consciousness. There could be challenges, but that means we're thriving. The alternative is mostly just sputtering. So we're so fortunate that Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, our Param Guru, has created that for us. And on this day, I offer all respects to him. Hare Krishna. That's all I have to say about that. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much.
A couple of different subjects. I hope it wasn't too much, but thanks, dear devotees, for tuning in to hear Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, reflections, realizations you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question. Prabhuji, it's very interesting, this region of Srimad Bhagavatam we are treating. I have heard, like I was saying yesterday, I've heard about the sweetness of Krishna. But reading these passages of how Krishna is so sweet I remember some time ago during the last the second part of President Obama's reign, when U.S. attacked Egypt. Oh, sorry, no, that was not Egypt, when U.S. attacked Libya. No, U.S. attacked Libya and Egypt during those days, but this was particularly Libya. And Hillary Clinton was getting so much bashing from left and right, and Obama said, the bus stops with me. I am the leader. Whatever she does is under my order. So if you have anything to say to her, don't say to her, say to me. And at that time, I didn't really understand and appreciate as much as what he did, as now we're reading from the Bhagavatam. And Sri Krishna is saying to the world that whatever offenses these Jai Vijay have committed, it is he who has to be blamed.
Amazing.
It just beats my mind. What a sweet person we're trying to follow. No. Well, I also hear what Krishna is saying in this verse, and Krishna had repeated the same thing in the Bible in a very little different tone. And I would like to share that. It's very interesting. Yes. There are lots of music genres that have actually used this Psalm 50. This is Psalm 1, but we're going to go to Psalm 50. People have used that in songs, but Psalm 50 says God is the judge. If we go to verse 6, 7 to 9, thereabout. Okay, let's start from 7. It says, hear, O my people, and I will speak. O Israel, and I will testify against thee. I am God, even thy God. I will not reprove thee for thy sacrifices or thy burnt offerings to have been continually before me. I will take no bullock out of thy house, nor he goats out of thy folds. For every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle upon 1,000 hills. I know all the fowls of the mountains, and the wild beasts of the field are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell thee, for the world is mine, and the fullness thereof. Will I eat the flesh of bulls, or drink the blood of goats? Offer unto God thanksgiving, and pay thy vows unto the Most High, and call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver thee, and thou shalt glorify me. So here also, Krishna, God, is reproving sacrifices. He is more interested in rendering service to him than offering the blood of bulls and goats, and we think we are pleasing the Lord. The Lord is saying no. He is not so much particularly interested in such things. And he's telling the world, he says, all the animals in the field, they all belong to me. If I were hungry, I did not tell you I was hungry to offer me these things, So, and that is exactly what Krishna is saying in the verse, and you addressed it so beautifully, where we understand that by serving the Lord and serving the Brahmanes, it is more pleasing to the Lord than all these sacrifices we perform. even though it is still the mouth of the Lord, but the Supreme Lord himself is saying that he prefers feeding the Brahmanas, feeding the Vaishnavas, serving the Brahmanas, serving the Vaishnavas over. And I think, was it in the purport or you just said it, how, I think it's in the purport, Srila Prabhupada was saying, feeding Brahmins is worth like thousands of fire sacrifices or something like that. Yeah, I think it's in the purport.
Giving the result of feeding 100,000 brahmanas. Oh, the conclusion is that if one can feed a brahmana or Vaishnava, it's better than performing hundreds of thousands of sacrifices.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Dear devotees, if anyone may want to ask or share something, please, you may do that before we call it a day. Our revered speaker, well, most of you might not know, but he is very, very busy, and we're just grateful that he could be here with us today. So if you have any question, comments, please, you may do that. Well, Prabhuji, it seems the devotees don't have anything to ask now, but I have something to say quickly.
Please.
I don't know if you are aware, but some time ago, Gita Nagri, all I mean, there are quite a number of devotees in Gita Nagri now who were all born either at Belfont or because we used to have a midwife over there, and she delivered lots of the kids in Gita Nagri. So sometimes devotees would go to her, and other times she would come to Gita Nagri to deliver.
That's nice. But
I didn't know that at some point the president had wanted to make that the capital of PA. That is very interesting.
I think Harrisburg only became the capital because it's on the river and there's a good port.
Yeah.
But Bellefonte had a lot more historical significance.
Yeah. And this Maharaj you were talking about, I had the wonderful
oh, you know him.
Opportunity, yes.
And you know I'm not exaggerating in my stories.
Not at all. Not at all. I was able to give him a ride from Harrisburg train station to the temple. And I gave him a ride. And like you were saying, he came to class Bhagavatam time one morning and he sat in the class and he quotes the verses like drinking water. He quotes, and he quoted one very complicated verse, and he asked everybody in the temple room who knows that verse. Everybody was quiet. And then His Holiness Bhakti Vasudeva, at that time he wasn't yet a sannyasi. He raised his hand, and His Holiness Bhakti Vasudeva Maharaj recited the sloka and ended the sloka in Sanskrit. And Maharaj offered his obeisance to Bhakti Vasudeva Maharaj.
Have you seen his tattoos?
No.
He has all the tilak tattooed, and he has some shlokas tattooed on his back in a circle. And just one more thing, because it's very relevant to this verse, actually. When he worshipped his Krishna Balaram deities, he doesn't just have Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He has about 40 or 50 of his god brothers and god sisters in pictures on his altar, and then he worships every one of them. Wow. It's really taking the instruction from Narayan as we're reading in this Bhagavatam verse. Yeah. He worships all of his god family.
Wow.
Very special devotee.
Very, very special. I was so lucky. I mean, I saw him, for whatever reason, I didn't even care about the environment. I just laid flat like a wooden stick at the Harrisburg train station. And then I helped pack his bag in the trunk, and I drove him. On the way, we had a very nice Krishna Katha.
good.
And thank you so much, Prabhuji. And
Thank you, dear devotees.
Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, he is so special, like you said in our line, that personally, I think devotees need to read more on his divine grace to appreciate him more. Because this same devotee, Bihari Lal, didn't speak Bengali. And
Really?
no, he didn't. He didn't speak Bengali. And Jagannath Das Babaji asked him to read a Bengali scripture. And he respectfully argued back with Jagannath Das Babaji. And he told him back, I told you to read. And he started reading like so proficiently. And he himself, I mean, he is described, this devotee, Kapoor, something Kapoor, I think L.B. Kapoor has a very nice book on Jagannath Das Babaji. I discussed it some time ago with Sarvatma Prabhu. Very beautiful. He could be in State College and know what's going on in Los Angeles. So he was so powerful, but he didn't display his mysticism, but he was so mystically powerful. And lots of pastimes he had with Krishna. He was speaking with his deities all the time. So today is a very special day that we can go a little deeper into trying to study more about Jagannath Das Babaji to understand and appreciate our line of discipline, that whatever is being taught in the scriptures are not just theoretical. They are real. If one practices, we will experience it. So with that being said, thank you for making me a second Vyasa speaking. I'm supposed to be hearing. Devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to His Grace YASODEVA Prabhu for sharing his love and wisdom with us all. Please, you may all unmute. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpa taradesya, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki all glories to Grace YASODEVA ki
Anjay.
Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki Hare Krishna.